All right, we are ready to go.
All right, thank you, Joshua. And welcome everyone to another PTAC webinar outreach event. We are pleased today to have with us the Utah Division of Facilities Construction and Management. But before I introduce our guest, I just want to welcome everyone. And for those of you who may not be a PTAC client or know much about the PTAC program, let me say a few words about that. I'm Chuck Spence. I'm the director of the PTAC. We call it PTAC, but it stands for the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and we are a statewide program throughout the state of Utah. What we are is a business development program within the Governor's Office of Economic Development. And what PTAC does is help Utah businesses who want to pursue government contracting. And that can be at any level, at the defense level, federal agencies. Like today, we have a state agency that deals with construction, and so it could be state and local. So whatever your needs are, whatever products or services you have that you feel that could be sold to a government agency, PTAC is here to help you with that process. We help with everything from the necessary registrations right through helping you submit a request for quote or a request for proposal, right through to post-contract administration. The best way to learn about PTAC is to go to our website, and that is business.utah.gov/PTAC. Let me repeat that. business.utah.gov/PTAC, PTAC. And there you learn about our program. You'll see the regional managers throughout the state that you can contact and ask for their assistance. We offer our services at no cost to you, so please take advantage of us. So today, as I mentioned, we have with us the Division of Facilities Construction and Management. And our guest today is Dana Edwards Wims, and it's my privilege to introduce Mrs. Wims. Mrs. Wims began working with DFCM in 2004 as a front desk receptionist, and then she was promoted to the position of value-based selection program coordinator in 2005. So as I mentioned to Dana, this is really cool because this is someone who's literally worked her way up from the ground floor into a very, very responsible position. She facilitates and manages all construction and design and multi-step selection procurement processes for capital development and capital improvement projects. She also manages and is the liaison and main point of contact for local contractors seeking to do business with the state of Utah and DFCM. And as you saw from the marketing flyer that went out today, Mrs. Wims will be talking about DFCM, its mission, their responsibilities, how to do business with DFCM, how to become a pre-qualified contractor, and the forecasted opportunities and projects that they will be dealing with this year. So we are thrilled to have Dana Edwards Wims with us. And oh, by the way, let me mention before I turn the time over to her that this is being recorded. And also, if you have questions throughout her presentation, if you'll hold those questions till the end, and then we'll have a Q&A session after her presentation. So with that, Dana, we'll turn the time over to you.
Thank you, Chuck, and welcome everyone. Do appreciate you coming in and wanting to get familiar with DFCM and our process and pre-qualification of contractors. Josh, you can go to the next slide. Okay, your question might be, who is DFCM? DFCM is the construction management section. excuse me, the construction management section of DFCM is responsible for constructing state facilities. After buildings are approved and funded by the Utah State Legislature, the construction management team is responsible for the following. Next. There, it's listed.
We have three
what
still spraying.
we are responsible for. That is establishing capital budget estimates in CBEs, architect and engineer procurement, construction procurement. In that construction procurement, it is CMGC, design build, construction BBS, and pre-qualification. Next is value management. Next is overseeing design and construction. DFCM manages projects from inception to closeout. Building official, operation and maintenance training. We work with agencies and institutions to ensure a smooth transition. Monitor warranty periods. High performance building standards. We ensure that the state's buildings meet energy industry standards, and also provide support for the governor's office, the building board, and legislator. Next. Daryl, do you want to go over this little slide here?
Yep, I can if you'd like me to.
Yes.
So I guess just a quick introduction. I'm Daryl Hunting with DFCM. I'm the Assistant Director over Capital Improvements. So I just manage the capital improvement project. Anyway, the project's total budget is less than 3.5 million, or if the project is less than 500,000 of new space, or if it's an infrastructure upgrade with a budget of less than 7.5 million, it's considered a capital improvement project. Any roofing, paving, hazmat, remodel, or even a new project that meets these criteria falls into this category. Work includes civil, utilities, parks, courts, jails, armories, schools, general, mechanical, and electrical. And just as a note, typically each year, just in capital improvement projects that the legislature funds alone, this year we got 158 million in capital improvement funding. We also get quite a bit of what we consider non-state funds throughout the year, which basically that's just agency funded projects that's not appropriated through the legislature. So we do well over 150 million, 200 million in capital improvements every year. So that's total project numbers is probably somewhere in the 400 project range.
Okay, next. And this is my part that I play a role in, a big role in, and is how to become a DFCM pre-qualified contractor. We do have this information on the DFCM website. If you do go to that, there is a drop down where it does indicate if you want to be a pre-qualified contractor. So first, what you'll need to do is create a U3p account. That's Utah Public Procurement Place. That's what the U3p stands for. You will need to create that account, and that is free. Once you do create that account, go to the next slide, Josh. Once you do create that account, you will have to put in a commodity code. And that commodity code is basically what your specialty is. All of DFCM's advertisement on the U3p website, we use the commodity code DFCM 99901. That is the main one. When you create your account, I would put that one first, because anything that DFCM puts out, you'll end up receiving an invitation or be able to view our solicitations on U3p. Next. And it may seem like we're going fast, or I'm going fast with these slides. This same information is on the DFCM website under the pre-qualification process, so you can reference that. Okay, once you do create your account, you do want to watch for the solicitation to be pre-qualified. We end up putting that solicitation on U3p. It is advertised every 6 months. We advertise that in December, and we go through the process of reviewing your proposal, your qualifications, and if you do qualify, you will be on the list as of January. And the same with June. If you do qualify, you'll be on the list for July. And you are on that list for 2 years. So previously we did have that shortened, but we decided to go ahead and leave everybody on for 2 years because there's some contractors that are down south where there may not be a lot of projects out there. So we may end up having 1 or 2 a year. So this gives them the opportunity to stay on the list to receive solicitations for more projects.
Yep, and Dana, let's just note that make sure you pay attention in that December timeframe and that June timeframe. Do not wait until you see a project advertised that you're interested in, because that's too late. You need to get on the list in December, so you're on in January, or get on in June, so you're set up and ready to go to July. Don't wait until August and you see a project and I'd really like to do that project and think you can get on the list, because that's too late at that point once the project's actually advertised on U3p.
Yes, and it typically takes us to go through all of the qualifications, the proposals from each of the contractors. It usually takes us, it could be up to 30 days for us to review that, call on references, and go through the scoring criteria and get you qualified. So next slide. One thing when you are submitting your documents, make sure you submit those documents on time. There have been quite a few times that I receive documents from firms that are late. They will not be accepted. Like I said, we do run this process, this pre-qualification process, through U3p. U3p does have a deadline, and it will state that in the solicitation schedule on when you're supposed to turn your documents in. It will be a specific date and a specific time. Once that date and time is passed, you will not be able to submit any more documents. So please pay close attention to the schedule of events and their deadlines. Next.
Dana, on that same note, do we also want to mention that when you set up your, when you get set up in U3p, make sure that you set it up as Mountain Standard Time and not Pacific. I know there used to be problems with the time zone that it was set up in.
Yes, yes, that's very important to make sure that is Mountain Standard Time. Next. Okay, once that deadline has passed, we do go through, Daryl, myself, and other project managers with other improvement project managers within DFCM. We do review submissions. We do an evaluation based on the criteria that's stated in the solicitation to determine if you're qualified. If you are pre-qualified, then you can begin bidding on jobs with DFCM, and that will be in January and July that those qualifications will be effective. Next. So what I put here is just an example of what you will end up seeing. In U3p, the title of the announcement of this solicitation will be the open-ended multi-step pre-qualification bidding process. The document that you will open up will look just like this, minus the date on there, but it will have stage 1 multiple capital improvement projects on there. So once you do set up your account and you receive information from U3p stating that DFCM has posted a solicitation, this is what you will be looking for. Next. Okay, and for new contractors, this is for contractors that are not on the current pre-qualified list. In the criteria, what we are requiring for your statement of qualifications is to provide us with a cover letter, which I will provide that in the documents, termination debarment certificate, a bid bond letter of recommendation. We'll need a copy of your contractor's license, a current copy, not an expired. And we would like for your contractor's license to have at least 6 months time on there. There have been some that I received that contractor's license expired the same month that they've actually submitted their documents. So make sure that those are valid. Past performance reference information and your statement of qualifications. One thing that we really have to filter out some of the proposals that come in. There are a lot of documents that we've requested that are not included in your packets. So if those documents aren't there, then we'll consider you non-responsive. Next. So this is just an example of the cover letter that will also be in that packet for you. It's very important that you have the company's legal firm name, and then also the contact person with an email address. You will receive information from me, myself, or Daryl via email. So that's important that you do have an email address on there. Next. Your termination debarment statement. So we do provide that also. So you will have to acknowledge this and have a signature and title. Next. Your bid bond letter of recommendation. This is verification of bonding capabilities. You will need to provide that. Your bonding agency or surety should have that form already. It's very important, these bullet points here, that your bonding agent does have this information in your letter. We do receive some that do not have this specific information in there, and I have to go searching for it. We would like for all of this to be on one letter. Next. Now the copy of the contractor's license. So this is what I was saying, that we will need current license. This is the verification. And I do believe that you can pull that off of DOPL. If not, then you can just scan a copy of your license if you have that in your office. Daryl, did you want to go over the classifications on the license? Because I know that was a question last go round.
Well, the only thing I would say there is just when you're trying to get pre-qualified for any particular discipline of the construction, just make sure you have a license that is, so you're legally licensed to do that type of work. So if you're a general, obviously you can do multiple things, but if you're just licensed as a roofer, you can't get on the general list unless you also hold a B100 or another license that covers general contractors. But just make sure that your license information is pertains to the classification or construction type that you're trying to get pre-qualified for, because each of the pre-qualifications are separate and individual. When you submit for one or multiple, but you have to specify which ones you're submitting for.
And I'd also like to add with that, like Daryl said, you have to submit separate ones. So if you are a paving contractor and also do site civil work, you will need 2 separate packets that you send in. So you, on that cover sheet, you can't check off 2 or 3. We'll need a separate package for each one. Next. Okay, what we also ask for is your past performance information. So what we're wanting is to understand and know your experience. We do call on references. We're asking that you only provide references where you were the prime contractor. We do receive some that from contractors that were subs. We want to know that you were the prime contractor and you held the contract. So when I do call the reference, they can actually speak to how your performance was. We do ask that you list at least 5 projects that have been completed in the last 5 years. DFCM does call on at least 3, a minimum of 3 references that you do have, and we will use those 3 references to establish a performance rating for you. It is also required that any of the references that we call, that out of 5-point rating, that you at least have a 4.0 out of that 5 rating in your references, based upon scoring that DFCM has provided, or the scoring sheet that DFCM is providing. And that's on the next page, I believe, maybe the next. Next.
One more note on past performances. Just remember that these projects that are on this list are typically going to be projects that are over $100,000 up to $3.5 million. So references that, I've seen this quite a bit, but project references on projects that are 30, 50, 75,000 are really not relevant, because typically all these projects are going to be minimum of $100,000 estimated value on up to 3.5 million. So we want projects that are going to be typically in that range as references, and they will be bonded, where projects typically under $100,000 we do not bond. So they typically go through a different process.
Okay, continuing on with the past performance, it is the firm's responsibility to provide us adequate reference information for any of the non-DFCM projects. If any firms do have DFCM projects, then I do have those ratings already. For any non-DFCM projects, we would like for you to provide this information, the name of project, location of the project. Very important, the point of contact, an email and a phone number. Please provide the email. In the COVID world today, everyone is mainly replying back to emails, and also wanting to get the contact information for that person who can answer the questions in regards to how you performed on the job. Dates completed, that's important because DFCM only goes back 5 years. So in your references, we don't want you to end up putting something that was 15 years old, because those references are hard to get a hold of. Also, your total construction cost, the size of the project, in the dollar amount. That's what Daryl was talking about in regards to making sure that those projects are compatible with what you're going for. Project type and service provided. Make sure that you have some information on the type of project, whether it was school, office, or a warehouse, etc. And square footage is also good on there too. So you can provide that. Like I said, just a little snippet of the project type and services that you provided for that reference. Next. So this is DFCM's past performance rating evaluation form. I know this is kind of small on here, and this is also on the DFCM website. So if you need to refer back to that, But when we do call on references, we end up calling and asking them how you performed on the job, the quality of service or project, how you handled your costs, your timeliness of performance, whether you met the schedule, whether you were behind, and business relation as to whether or not your reference would hire you again for another project. So this is the record that we end up keeping on any of the references that you provide for us. Next. So now we're down to the meat of your packet, and that is the Statement of Qualifications and Management Plans. It's very important, these bullet items here, this is what we actually grade you on, in that you have provided this information. So be concise in your documents and make sure that you do have information on the company, the key individuals. An organization chart works very well. Information on the types of projects that have been completed by those key individuals and the company. A list of projects indicating the type of projects, the date, size, and the responsibility of the key individuals on the project. Experience and special qualifications of the entity that are applicable to this pre-qualification. How your subcontractors and vendors are selected and managed, that is very important. And also the entity safety policy and job site management. Next slide. So when you are putting your proposal together, what we like to see is fonts no larger than 12. Use tabs in your proposal to identify the requested criteria in the solicitation. In that previous page, that is the requested criteria that you provide. Very important that you pay attention to the project schedule, the detailed requirements, which was on that previous page, and also the page limit. What we're looking for, no more than 10 pages. So I received documents that are 32 pages. That's a lot of information to look over. What we want is for you to be concise again, and mainly just abide by the selection criteria that we already have lined out for you to put in your management plans and proposal. Next. So on your proposal, there's do's and don'ts, okay, and I've already gone over this. The do's, be concise, play up your strengths, explain what processes you will employ to be successful, be clear about levels of authority, submit all required documents through U3p by the date and time indicated on the schedule. Very important, the don'ts, don't be late. Don't email your documents, meaning emailing them to myself or Daryl or to DFCM contracts. Don't provide irrelevant information, and do not assign unqualified personnel. Next slide. So this is our contact information, and we moved in January of last year. We moved from the state office building at the Capitol. Now we are actually in the Taylorsville State Office building. So beautiful building. There is our information there. If you cannot reach Daryl or myself, you can contact the reception desk, and their number is listed below if you have any questions. Next slide. Okay, any questions?
Right, Dana, thank you for that information. As the questions come in, let me just kind of kick it off. You mentioned about the need to pre-qualify. Obviously, for our clients and participants, they're always looking at competition. How many do you have that typically pre-qualify?
Well, it depends. Normally in December, January, we do get a handful in. We have received up to 20, in the 20-30 range for general contractors. Typically roofing, paving, mechanical, there can be 5 or 6 contractors that are interested in that. But our busiest time is in December for everyone to get on the list in January.
And your process is not unlike that of the federal government. You mentioned past performance, which is always part of a federal solicitation. In state government and with these construction projects that you mentioned, do you look at what the federal government calls LPTA, the lowest price technically acceptable? Do you go off that mostly, or do you also do best value? How do you judge who is the best qualified individual for a job?
Daryl, do you want to go over that?
Okay, so that varies depending on projects, but typically on this pre-qualified list of projects, if it's done this way, it's considered now a construction 2-step pre-qualified. And once you're pre-qualified, the bid is low bid at that point. So if we're bidding an individual project through this process, the pre-qualifications have already been done, and so it's low bid at that point. We don't look at any other qualifications unless there's something specific about a project that is unique, but then that would be identified in the RFP.
So Daryl, if an individual's, if their past performance was just stellar, but their price was a little bit higher than perhaps other pre-qualified people, would they lose out?
Yep, it is low bid unless the project's published and advertised as a VBS selection. This is what we consider pre-qualified low bid.
Okay, thank you.
And so you're only bidding against people that are on that list, pre-qualified list, but it is low bid at that point.
Got it. Joshua, it looks like we've got some questions coming in.
Yeah, so we've got Ian Doolin who asks, what's the pay schedule on project?
Typically, we'll pay once a month based on your schedule of values and the work that's progressed at that point. And we try to turn our payments around very quickly. So once they're been reviewed and approved by the architect, the project manager, we try to approve those within 3 days after the project manager has them submitted. So.
And a question in the chat that was answered also in the chat, just for people's information. The page limit on the qualification/management plan is 10. And then Ganesh asks, how does the procurement process for under $100,000 work?
Okay, so typically the procurement process for projects that are under $100,000 is we can do an invitational bid at that point. And so for smaller contractors or contractors that are not on this list, or maybe they just don't have the experience or they missed it, we can do an invitational on projects that are under $100,000. A lot of times project managers are familiar with contractors on this list and they'll choose them, but we can invite any contractors that are legally licensed to perform this work. And typically by statute, we have to invite at least 2, but I typically recommend that we invite 4 contractors or more to them. Sometimes we'll see 6 or 8 invited, but I guess in a nutshell, under $100,000, it can be an invitational. And typically they are not bonded.
That's all the questions we have from the chat.
Okay. So Daryl and Dana, you mentioned, the timing is great with this presentation. because the next time to become a pre-qualified bidder is June, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Is there a specific date in June that they should be looking?
No, we like to get that out within the second week of the month. So second week in June, second week in December.
Yep. And to be honest with you, Chuck, I would recommend that if contractors are interested in doing work for DFCM, I would recommend they keep an eye on the website weekly at the least, because we bid a lot of other projects that are not going to be on this list necessarily. This is only one of our procurement processes, but we do typically all our projects that are over $100,000 in value will be on U3p, whether they're pre-qualified going through this process. We do still do some projects that are unique and straight low bid. And those straight low bid ones might have some project specific qualifications depending on the uniqueness of the project. We do VBS projects, whether that's design build, a true VBS. So there could be any project anywhere from the $100,000 level all the way up to a $50 million project. Well, even a $1 billion project. The new state prison went through U3p in this process. So pretty much every project that DFCM does will go through U3p unless that's very small, you know, that under $100,000 level. So,
Josh, we have another question.
Yes, Caleb wants you to go back over how many are on the list that get pre-qualified to get an idea for competition.
I'm actually trying to pull that list up now.
I've actually got the list in front of me, and I don't want to count them all, but there is on the general list, there is quite a few. There's probably, I'm going to say 75 contractors on the list. You can look at the list on our website. But typically, we only get anywhere from 2 to 10 that might bid, depending on the project. You know, we've never had a project where all the contractors show up. So there is a fair amount of contractors on the general list. If I went back and looked at the electrical list, it gets a little smaller. There might be, you know, 20 on it. Again, these are just guesses. Roofing, there's going to be maybe 20 roofing contractors on that list. Paving, looks like we're going to have somewhere around that 20 range as well on paving. Site civil, right close to that 20 contractors as well. And mechanical contractors is maybe 25. So we don't necessarily, we don't want to be so restrictive. We eliminate qualified contractors. And so our pre-qualification criteria is not so strict that we want to limit that and say we only want 10 contractors on this. We want to give all good contractors, which there's a lot of good contractors in the state, the opportunity to be able to bid on this work and prove themselves. I can't remember if Dana went over it, but once you're on the list, you're not guaranteed to stay on it. You stay on it through your performance. If you don't perform, you will get removed from the list. So.
Perfect. And one of our regional managers, Tom Gerke, points out that reviewing that list of pre-qualified vendors on the DFCM website is valuable for possible subcontracting opportunities. Ian, yeah, go ahead.
I'd say definitely. I get phone calls all the time from suppliers or subs, and how do we bid this project? And it's like, well, make sure you're aware of it. When the projects are bid through U3p, typically you should be able to go in there and look and see the attendance sheet, so you'll know who attended the pre-bid meeting, so who's going to bid it, and you can make contact directly with them if you're interested, whether a vendor or a subcontractor in that regard. So
Perfect. And do you sole source?
do we sole source? No, not generally. Sometimes there is situations where we will sole source a product or something if it needs to meet current building installations or whatnot, but typically no, we do not sole source, especially going through this process. When we do sole source, it has to have director approval. But if we're talking sole source on products, typically we need to have at least 2 project or products specified or approved equal. And if you're referring to sole sourcing to a contractor, I don't know that ever really happens, but occasionally you will see a sole source on equipment or product, but it's a case-by-case basis. And sometimes architects or engineers may put something like that in the specs, unbeknownst to us or the project manager, but we try to avoid that when possible. So, and if we get made aware of it, that there's an unapproved sole source in the spec, we need to get that resolved.
Perfect. Somebody asked if they can get a copy of this recording. Yes, this recording will be sent out to all the participants, and it will also be posted on our website. Charlene asks, are there specific contracting opportunities for fire and security doors, or does that come through the prime contractors?
And typically on a project that would come through the prime contractor, unless we're doing if we're doing a specific project for fire or security doors, and that's just that. And typically it might be a standalone project, whether we do an invitational or we do a state contract if there is one in place, or we might do a straight low bid with qualifications. And occasionally we might even do a single project shortlisting, depending on the technicalities of a project and if we feel like that's justified. But typically we want projects, if we're going to do a single project shortlisting, that would be typically a fairly large, complex project to justify the time necessary to do that.
And Alex asks, who are some of the largest Utah construction contractors on your list?
I do know that we've got Geneva Rock. That's a pretty large one.
Yep. As far as on generals, and typically the big guys don't come after this work, but we've got companies like Grimal is on the general list. I'm just looking through it. Contractors like Big D are not currently on the list.
Hughes is on the list.
Yep, Hughes is on the list. They're a fairly large one. I don't see Jacobson. I believe like up north, Raymond Construction's on it. I believe Spindler's, and they're, you know, not, I guess, depending on what you consider big. Wick is on it. There's Wadman is on it, but I don't see the Jacobsons or the Laytons or the Oaklands. I'm just reviewing it real quick. But
Yeah, no, they're not on there.
Typically those firms, you know, their niche is those multi-million-dollar projects, and that's what they focus on. But I would say the majority of contractors, even though we do have a few large ones, the majority of these firms that are on our list are those that go after the you know, the $100 to $1 million type projects is what they go after, and some of them a little larger. So because we do these projects up to the 3.5 million. I do see R&Os on there. That's just on the general list. Obviously, the other list, the roofing list, I believe the majority of the known roofing contractors are on the list. Paving contractors would be the same, so forth. So hopefully that answers your question without going through every one of the lists. So.
Daryl, this is Ganesh with AOCA Engineering. I have a question for you. So we went through the pre-qualification process this last December, and we are a pre-qualified company now. And we provide construction inspection and plan review services. And usually our contracts are less than $100,000. So what do we do next? Who is our point of contact? Should we reach out to the project managers, or what do you recommend in terms of next step to actually do the work with DFCM?
So if I followed you right, so you're looking at doing inspections?
Yes.
You're not doing the work?
We're not.
Okay, so you would want to get on our website and go to the building official page and get with Tom Peterson, our building code official. He's the one that would pre-qualify any code inspection firms or special inspection firms, and typically we'll hire a code inspection firm and they will oversee the special inspections. So if you don't do special inspections, you would sub that out, but you'd need to talk with Tom Peterson, our code official, and get him your packet showing him that you're qualified and have the proper credentials to do code inspections, and then he could get you on his pre-qualified list. And then that's pretty much just depending on location and project. Once you're on the list, they almost rotate through it depending on project location and your fee schedule, because you would submit a fee schedule based on your trip charges and different things like that. So.
Okay, thanks, Daryl.
Any other questions for Dana or Daryl? And Joshua, I think we've gone through the list on the chat box, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, but if you'd like, you can still submit them orally or on chat, but I don't see any more. So with that, Dana and Daryl, a hearty thank you from the PTAC program. The questions have been excellent. Your presentations have been just very, very good. And just a reminder to all participants, as Dana mentioned, that these opportunities are going to be out on what they call the UP3, Utah Public Procurement Place, which is the state's sort of the state's bid place, if you will. And if you need help with that, although it's fairly self-explanatory, as Dana mentioned and went through it, but if you need some assistance, reach out to your PTAC regional manager and they will be happy to assist you with that or anything else you might need with regards to any of these state procurements. So again, thank you to Dana and to Daryl, and also just a reminder that this is going to be a very busy PTAC week. We have another outreach tomorrow, although it's fairly narrow in its focus. We're having a DIBS webinar, and then that acronym stands for the Defense Internet Bid Board System, which is about the Defense Logistics Agency and who buy and purchase products and services primarily for the warfighter. So we will be going through that tomorrow at, I believe, 10 a.m. And then on Thursday, we have Sunset Ridge Development Partners, a joint venture between Woodbury Corporation and Hunt Companies. that will be talking about other construction opportunities at Hill Air Force Base, along with the enhanced use lease program that they have with MITA, the Military Installation Defense Authority, and that is Thursday, I believe, at 9 a.m. So a very busy week for PTAC, but we kicked it off with our big star, DFCM, and Dana and Daryl. Again, thank you. And if you need any help, one other reminder is that these slides will be made available to you, and the recording will be posted on the PTAC website. So if you'd like to go there, give us a couple, 3 days to get that in place, and that will be available to you. So with that, we'll conclude today's webinar and outreach, and thank you for participating. Have a great day.
Thank you, Chuck.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Joshua, thank you.
Okay, we'll see you. Thanks.